Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing something that's just a little bit different, and if you've been following along at all with what I've been doing lately the last 2 weeks or so, I actually committed to doing 30 days on the ice and kicking out a video for every single day that I'm out, which has been quite a project so far, to say the least. But I thought it would be interesting for this video to take a few little clips from a handful of the videos that I've shot so far this year that have some really good information that will help you catch more fish right now on early ice. And let's start things off with a small little adjustment that I made when I was fishing on Red Lake for walleyes that I believed helped me put a few more fish on the ice. So we are gonna make like a super finite adjustment to our presentation here. So as you can see, I got the bright yellow glow stick in there, and we're gonna change it out for this red one. Now the red is not nearly as bright, so it's gonna be a little bit more subtle. If we do get another fish in the hole here, it's a little bit less flashy, and it might up our chances of getting bit. And super ironically too, on Red Lake, fish just love the color red. So don't know why that is, but they do. So now we got a red glow stick in there, and I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that on camera or not. Can you? Yeah, a teeny bit. So we have a little bit of glow, which is gonna help us draw fish into the hole, but it's gonna be a little bit more of a subtler glow. I think that might slightly up our chances of getting bit when the fish is just staring our bait down. Wow. I don't know what the heck that is, but it's big. That is a hefty mark. I just kind of came in and it was, you could tell it was trying to find me because its back was kind of set up to me, and it was trying to turn its body to find where the jig was. Oop, he's back. Oh, here he goes. Yes. And that is a better walleye by a little bit. It's not like a big walleye, but definitely a better one. And you could tell the last fish, you know, it marked pretty decently, but this one looked enormous on the Mega Live. We're in pretty shallow water, so it can be a little bit deceiving, but I'll give you a good look at that eye. There we go. Now, making little adjustments like that, whether it's to color, or maybe it's the bait you're using, or even just like the color of the glow stick you're using, sometimes it can make a difference, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's really hard to know whether it helped you catch more fish or if it was just too small of a sample size to really get any good information. But this next tip that I'm gonna show right now, I can guarantee you for a fact will help you get more bites and hook up with those fish a lot better when you're chasing panfish. There we go. So it's really a pretty simple recipe. When you're fishing for crappies, you'll see them come in on the graph, and that is not going to be your indication of a bite. And you're also not going to feel them in your hand. What you got to do is you got to be watching this tip. And sometimes it's not going to move a lot, but if it moves a tiny little bit, that means it's breathing on it. And all a crappie has to do is just breathe on it with that paper mouth, and there's a fairly good hooking percentage with them, especially versus bluegills. Bluegills are not as easy to hook up with it because they tend to peck at the bait. Crappies tend to inhale it. So when you're comparing bluegills and crappies, usually bluegills are the ones that are kind of just pecking at your bait, and crappies are the ones that come in and woof it. But sometimes crappies are not extremely good biters when they're being real finicky. So there's a few different things that I like to do to my jig that I think really ups my odds, especially in this basin fishing situation. And I know that people love like the fine, minute details. So first and foremost, what I like to do is I like to take my wax worm and I like to thread it right at the tip, not on the side that has the little black thing, but on the other side, and I'll put it right on the tip, and then what I'll do is I'll rip off that little black thing. And basically what you got is you have a tube full of juicy goodness that the crappies cannot resist. So you put that down there, and if the crappie takes a little bite, it's gonna shoot a bunch of that juice right into its mouth, and it will just have to take another bite and get that jig fully in its mouth, at which point you're gonna have like 100% hooking rate. So that's the first thing I do. Another thing that I do is you gotta make sure that the jig is completely horizontal. And more often than not, like if you're jigging or you just caught a fish, it's gonna be hanging vertically, because the knot on like the little line tie is gonna have slid to the point where it's just hanging like that. And so what I like to do is I like to take this line and I like to pull it back towards the back side of the jig. And basically what that's gonna do is make it sit horizontal once it's in the water. So that's really key. And then the third key thing, at least that's been really critical today, is I have a little glow ring down here. And I doubt that you can see it, maybe you can, but it definitely brightens it up quite a bit. This is a little glow jig. So having a little bit of glow, I've noticed when I don't glow my jigs and I drop them down, if there's crappies in the area, you know, sometimes they'll notice me, sometimes they won't. But when I glow it, those fish come and check it out. So that's a really critical thing if you're gonna be fishing after dark. And those are like the three main things that I'm doing right now that I think are definitely helping me catch more crappies. Now, I definitely do not claim to be the best ice fisherman in the world, but if there's one thing that I feel like I'm fairly dialed in at, it's dead sticking. So in this next little clip, I'm gonna run from top to bottom my entire dead sticking setup, and I think it's one of those setups that's really efficient, that helps me catch more fish, so hopefully you can learn something from it. What I'll do here is I'll reel it up, and on the business end of things, basically I just have a single hook, and you could run a treble as well, kind of in that, like, I don't know, roughly number 2 size or so. And I just got that tail hooked, and then I have a couple split shots, a swivel, and this whole entire setup, the leader and the main line, is actually all 5-pound fluorocarbon, or 6 pounds, something in there, I can't remember. I haven't re-spooled this year. But kind of some of the most important parts of this entire setup is I actually have the tuned up dead stick rod here, and I haven't really experimented with a lot of different rods for the whole dead sticking application. So I can't say what's for sure the best, but I do like this particular setup. I like the high vis tip. And one thing that I think might be actually way more important than the rod for this particular setup is the reel. So I have the Okuma bait feeder reel, and if you can get a good bait feeder reel, no matter what the brand is, that can be the absolute deal, because all you got to do is flick this switch right here, and then line will come out extremely easily. And as you can see, when I pull this, even when it's perfectly balanced, you're really not utilizing this soft tip at all really anyway. So me and Brett were actually talking about this. Having a nice dead stick rod can be really cool in a lot of cases, especially if you're using kind of a normal reel. If you're using one that has a really good drag system like that, you could actually get away with a little bit more of a faster action rod that's a little stouter further up, so you can get a better hook set and actually maybe have a better time fighting the fish as well and muscling the head up through the hole. So that's just something to consider as well when you're thinking about rod choice. If you have the right reel, it might not be as important as you think it is. But another part of this whole setup that I think kind of really makes it is I have a bucket right here, obviously, and then I have, this is, I believe Catch Cover makes this. This is just their sort of dead stick holder deal. And you can just set that right in there, and what's cool is, let me reel this up a little bit, I didn't get it set up at the right depth. When a fish takes it, even if you don't necessarily have a reel with a super sensitive drag, the fish will pull the tip down and this whole thing will rotate right here on this arm, which is just a really nice system. It definitely It's super easy to set up and it's easy to pull out of there, but it's definitely better than, you know, the old rod on top of the bucket trick. So like I said, if there's anything that I feel like I'm somewhat dialed with right now, it's actually this dead stick setup. And I'm gonna get it set at the correct depth. What I like to do if I'm not using a flasher is I'll drop it all the way down to the bottom, and then I'll just reel up a little bit, set it in there, flick the switch, and it's ready to go. Last but not least, I know that a bunch of you who are watching this video right now are fans of jumbo perch, love chasing them, love catching them, love eating them probably as well. But in this next clip, I'm gonna break down my #1 go-to setup for chasing and catching jumbo perch. He came in fast, real fast. There we go. You probably couldn't see that, but he basically jumped right out of the hole. He was excited. He was he was all fired up. Look at him, he's kind of got a little bit of a beat down fin up there. But just another nice perch. We'll get him back. And whenever I'm chasing perch, I love to match the hatch with more perch, because perch really love to eat perch. And making myself a jumbled mess there. But what I got right here is the macho minnow, which is one of my go-to favorites. I think it's really cool. It's got that kicker tail and it's got the slim profile, but one of the biggest keys, I think, in my personal opinion, maybe it's not insanely important, but I have a little bit more confidence when I'm chasing perch to actually have perch colored offerings, because I know the way perch are. They love to eat small perch. So yeah, that's my go-to bait. And then I've just been tipping it with a tiny little shiner head. So basically what I do is I come up through the bottom. That's my preferred way to put these minnow heads on. The top of the skull is usually pretty hard, which will hold the minnow head on there with the barb on top of the hard head. And then I just pinch off the rest of the body, and there you go. When you're chasing big perch like that, oftentimes bigger baits work super awesome. I love those spoons that have a slender profile, and I also love puppet minnows as well. And when the bite is really tough and finicky, I'll go to a smaller tungsten jig, but generally I'm trying not to fish with tiny little jigs when I'm fishing for big perch like that, just as a rule of thumb. But sometimes the mood of the fish, if they're kind of negative, it might dictate that to happen. But I want to thank all of you for watching to the end of this video. If you found it entertaining, or you maybe possibly learned something, hit that little red subscribe button down below, because we have a lot more videos coming this winter. Stay tuned, we will see you in the next one.